Delete everything in the scene. Go to the top view. Create a plane. Go to the edit mode and merge all the vertices at the center. Go back to the object mode and create a shape key, rename it something like start. Go to edit mode, and with this single vertex selected, extrude it along the y-axis by 10 units. Go to object mode. Let's create a skin modifier so we can see the result. Create a second shape key and rename it something like end. Go to edit mode and flip those two vertices. So move the top vertex along the y-axis by -10 units. Hit Ctrl+A to select the other vertex and move it along the y-axis by 10 units. Go to object mode. Now let's test those two shape keys. Create a Bezier curve. Adjust its shape as you like, and don't worry about the curve not matching the mesh length, we will fix that later. Go to object mode. Select the mesh, and add a curve modifier. Use the eyedropper to select the curve. Select the deformation axis to be Y. If your mesh started in the wrong direction, select the curve. Go to edit mode. Right-click. And select switch directions. Now it's fixed. Now let's measure the scale required to make the mesh's length match the curve's length. Select the mesh. Scale it, and try to match its length with the curve. Now save the number of the scale value in the top left corner, which is 1.34 in this case. Right-click to cancel the scale operation. Go to edit mode. Select all the vertices. Select the first shape key. Make sure the transformation pivot point is the 3D cursor, and scale it with the scale value we saved, which is 1.34. Select the second shape key and scale it with the same value. Now they are matched. Add a subdivision surface to the mesh if you want the two endpoints to be rounded. Now let's add some animation. Go to the Start Shape key and hover over the value box. Press I to set a keyframe in the first frame. Go to frame 18 and add another keyframe. Go to the first frame and adjust the value to be 0, and add a keyframe with that value. Go to frame 4 and add a keyframe to the end shape key with a value of 0. Go to frame 24 and add another keyframe with the value of 1. Go to the graph editor and adjust the timing of the keyframe as you prefer. Hit Ctrl+A if you want to maximize the view you're hovering over. To move the shape, we can't adjust the position of the curve, because that will change the position of the mesh. So let's create an empty object. Select the curve and the mesh and parent those two to the empty object. Now we can move the shape without messing with the mesh's position. Let's add a shadeless material to this line. Go to the shader editor. Add a new material. Delete the principled BSDF node. Hit Shift-A and search for the light path node. Add a transparent BSDF and an emission node in the same way. Add a mix shader node and connect these nodes like this. Since I have zero experience with materials, I copied these nodes from Blender Stack Exchange website. I'll put its link in the description. We can change its color by changing the color of the emission node. The last step is to set the shadow mode to be none in the Material tab. Duplicate the collection from the previous step, just for more organization. Delete the Bezier curve. Select the mesh and delete all the modifiers. Add a screw modifier. Adjust the steps to a higher number. Duplicate the collection from the first step. Select the curve. Go to Edit mode and delete all the vertices. While you're in the Edit mode, hit Shift-A and create a circle. Now we have to adjust its length, like what we did in the first step, so it ends in the same location it started. To do that, let's first shift the keyframes of the end shape key, so we can see the full length of the line. Go to the dope sheet and double-click on the end value to select all its keyframes. Hit G end and move them with a value like 20 frames. Now let's scale it and save the scale value in the top left corner. In this case it's 4.4. Right-click to cancel the scale operation and go to Edit mode. Scale the mesh by 4.4 in both shape keys like the first step. Make sure to set the transformation pivot to the 3D cursor, so it doesn't scale in both directions. Let's move the end keyframes back 20 frames to where they were. Duplicate the collection we created in the previous step. Select the mesh. Move the subdivision modifier up by one step. Choose its type to be simple. Go to Edit Mode, and with all the vertices selected hit Ctrl+A to adjust the thickness of the skin modifier. Make it roughly match the diameter of the circle. Make the divisions higher values. If you want the animation to start from the top, you can select the curve, go to Edit Mode and rotate all the vertices with 180 degrees. Create a UV sphere. Rotate it along the y-axis with 90 degrees. Create a shape key. Go to Edit Mode and select the last vertex. Enable proportional editing, or hit O. Change the falloff to be sharp. Move this vertex along the x-axis. You can use your mouse wheel to adjust the falloff radius. Go to Object Mode. Create a Bezier curve. Go to Edit Mode and adjust its shape as you like. Don't forget to disable the proportional editing to edit the curve properly. If you want to scale the curve handles, don't forget to change the transformation pivot to be individual origins. Select the sphere. Add a curve modifier. Choose the curve you've just created. If the sphere started in the wrong direction, select the curve, go to Edit Mode, right-click, and choose Switch Directions. To test the modifier, select the mesh and move it along the x-axis. Now let's add some keyframes to the X position of the sphere. I like to add some snappiness to the movement, so I added a keyframe to the animation curve and adjusted its shape a little bit. Now let's add some keyframes to the value of the shape key, so it starts a little bit before the fast part of the animation, and ends after that part with a few frames. It all depends on your vision. Now let's add an empty object and parent the mesh and the curve to it.